Welcome back to OpenLine tonight. We are talking about the issue of homelessness, also what's going on at Fort Negley. It's changing by the day there as of this past Friday night at 11 o'clock when that camp was supposed to be shut down and the people moved on out. Citations were starting to be handed out last night, and now 6 people have been cited. I have Samuel here with me and Lindsay from Open Table and Outreach Ministry that works with the homeless in our area. And this is a very big issue. It needs to be solved, as I said a little bit earlier. I want to know more about Fort Negley, about the people there. I know it's very much a community. How does this community run? How do they exist?
Sure. It's a really interesting community, different from other camps because they actually have different subdivisions and neighborhoods. There's the Gulch and Eagles Landing and Far Point Station, and they really have their own different sections. You see some of the best of humanity there during the winter months. People took single women in and tons of other people in who couldn't get into the shelters, and they kept them warm. They gave them propane heaters and extra blankets. There are absolutely couples there. There's a lot of looking out for each other. There's also sometimes disagreements. Anyone who's lived in community knows that sometimes it's hard to get along. But I got an email recently from a young man who lived at Fort Negley, and he said, I'm out of state. I saw the news about Fort Negley on social media, and I want you to know that it's the only place, being there at that camp is the only place I've ever found refuge. He said some of the men there helped him get off heroin. And he said, right now I'm in a different state and I'm struggling and I wish I could come back because that's where I felt safe and at home. So these really beautiful stories of hospitality and peer support and things like that emerge out of this camp. And a lot of struggles emerge too. So
these are some people with some tough stories.
They're incredible trauma.
Yeah.
And life on the streets is hard if you don't have some sort of community to be in. And that's what the camps provide, are a little community. They know each other, they look out for each other, they watch each other's property. I know a number of people who living just, say, sleeping under a bridge or wherever they can, have been beaten up. Not usually by other people who are experiencing homelessness, but it's just tough. And when you're in a community like that, you feel protected and you feel like somebody has your back.
I just think of it this way, you know, when you have a tough day at work and you're like, I just want to get home. I just want to get home to my place where I can just take off the bad day, wash it away, and just, you know, be me. And that's what it is for them. It's home.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the few things that people have when they're on the street is some autonomy. And that's one of the things that the camp gives them. Many people have used Fort Negley and other camps like it to eventually put their lives back together again. But it's challenging. It's you know, to get into housing, you have to have a down payment. You have to have, you know, oftentimes some degree of credit. And this allows people a place where they can begin that process.
Are some of these residents working? Do they have jobs?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Most of them
Oh,
are.
yeah, most of them are.
We can't go during the day because all of them are gone.
Wow.
So we have to come after 5:30 to visit with a lot of them, or super early in the morning because most of them are working jobs.
What kind of jobs?
Labor jobs is a lot of what they're doing. There's an engineer who just started a new job today, which is really exciting. There's people that sell the paper, the newspaper. There's people with disability that try to do odd jobs just to try to build up enough.
Do something.
Construction jobs, laying asphalt. They often work in temporary agencies, but unfortunately those agencies don't really pay enough to be able to get very far ahead very quickly. And so it's really a challenge.
And we all know the city has a major crisis with finding affordable housing. We just don't have it. We don't have affordable housing. The rent prices here, outrageous.
Yeah, they've gone up $230 since 2013, the price of an average one-bedroom apartment. For every $100 increase, homelessness increases about 15%.
Wait, say that again. Slow that down and tell me again, because that's important.
Yeah, so for every $100 increase in rents, homelessness increases about 15%. In Nashville, in the past year, it's gone up over 30%.
Wow.
So
this is just a growing problem.
It is, and the affordable housing crisis is exacerbating the crisis of homelessness. And so what we have is people with nowhere to go and nowhere to like legally exist. Just
Sure.
their existence when they have nowhere to be is criminalized. So we're fighting for that right to exist with Fort Negley and other camps.
And we talked about what this community is on the best of days, but let's face it, in all communities, in all subdivisions, in all walks of life, there are problems, and there have certainly been at Fort Negley, and I'm sure at other homeless camps around the area. Police have been called for aggravated assaults, for rapes, attempted rapes. I mean, it's some pretty ugly stuff. And that is the reality, and I think some people are using that to say, hey, we have to do this. Well, I mean, the mayor has said we have got to protect people. We can't have this. And that's one of the reasons they're saying we have to get people to move out of Fort Negley. But you're telling me just moving the problem somewhere else. It's not solving anything.
Right, and the residents there want safety too. There are women up there, single women, women in couples. They want safety too. They're saying, help us find ways to be safe. Help us find safer environments. But the reality is we can't control who goes in and out right now. And in any neighborhood, if I lived in an apartment complex and there was violence next door, that would be dealt with by the legal system, right?
Right.
We wouldn't evict all of the apartment and say, oh, we'll solve this issue of violence by evicting all of you, so I get thrown out too, right? So the residents are asking for that help. We're saying let's come up with better solutions. Maybe it is at Fort Negley that there needs to be a camp, and maybe it's somewhere else where there can be more safety. But something has to take the place if it goes away, because these are human beings, these are our friends, and they have nowhere to go.
Let's continue to talk about that in a second. I have Steve on the line. Steve, thank you for being with us tonight on Open Line. What's your question or comment?
Well, my comment is there's a lot of the people that live there that are building downtown Nashville and can't afford housing or a place to stay, and they're building your city. And you've got no alternative for them. And those people take care of each other. You know, they give each other shelter from the storm. I mean, the older guys are disabled that have no place to go. They take care of some of the younger people, and they watch out after them.
Steve, have you been a resident there? How do you know so much?
I just know a lot of people. I'm from Clarksville, but I know a lot of people from Nashville, and I know that area. I know Nashville fairly well. My brother lives there.
Well, we appreciate your call tonight. Thank you for being part of Open Line.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a good one.
Good night.
All right. Good night. Thank you. Thank you. Let's talk about those solutions, because there has to be a solution along this continuum. We can't just say this is a problem, move on out. So from your perspective, because you guys are really the boots on the ground there, you know more than anybody what's going on and what the obstacles are. What do you guys see as workable solutions?
Right.
Well, in the first place, we think that people should not be forced out, because it only destabilizes them further. It pushes them further into homelessness, which prolongs it and makes it more expensive for the city as well, besides traumatizing the people at the camp. But overall, for Fort Negley, I mean, I feel that that section of Negley is not a bad place for a camp, but if the mayor insists on ending the camp there, we believe, and this is what we've maintained since last August, there should be an alternate place for them to go where they won't be forced out, where they won't be threatened at 1 o'clock in the morning with citations for, camping. There's no safety in that. If they're forced out, they'll be in exactly the same position. In the long term, of course, what we want is housing for people, and we are working with a number of people there to try to get them into housing. I think the mayor understands that. She was on the Homeless Commission, but I'm not sure she understands how difficult it is to move people from out of the camp into housing. And we've certainly been making successful efforts, but it takes time.
How much time does it take usually just to make somebody go from point A to point B successfully?
I've been working with one resident of Fort Negley for over 10 months, working to get his Section 8 voucher. So this can take, sometimes it takes 6 months or 5 months. Sometimes it takes over a year. But we're looking at an incredibly long waiting list right now. And the situation is incredibly dire. We know part of the solution, like Samuel was saying, is something transitional in the meantime. So what we've been asking the mayor's office and what we've been asking faith communities is find land, open up land. We have this amazing list of metro vacant properties. We know of a few that would be really great. Are there those pieces of land that you could lease to a faith community? Are there faith communities out there that could do what Green Street Church is doing?
Tell us about that.
So Green Street Church is the only legal place to camp right now in the whole city of Nashville. They started around 2012, and it started with one tent. So a woman came to them and said, "Tent City's gone. I used to live there. I have no home. I feel safe on your property. Can I put my tent up?"
Oh, wow.
And the pastor said, "I got to pray about this. I can't tell you yes. I can't tell you no. Let me talk to the church." So she put a tent up, and they felt called to use their land for shelter for people. So they added another tent, and someone else came by and needed a place, and they said, "This is our calling as a church." And
beautiful,
it's
really.
beautiful. And the way they were able to do that is, well, the city came in and they said, "You can't do that. It's against urban camping ordinances." But they said, "Well, God is telling us we have to do this." So religious land use laws allow religious groups to use their property for sanctuary. And so we're needing is another sanctuary movement in Nashville. Open your land. If it's 2 people, if it's 20 people, are there faith communities that can come on board with us? So that's one of the solutions, the stopgap measures, to make sure that we're dealing with this in a humane way. These are our brothers and sisters. And the other part is the affordable housing.
Right.
We'd really like to see a strategic, comprehensive plan to address the need for, experts say we need about 20,000 units of low-income housing. A fancy way of saying it is 0 to 60% of Davidson County median income. So this is the people making the lowest amount of money. We want a plan that doesn't just say, let's put a few dollars here and a few dollars here. We know what works is a plan that has implementation, accountability, leadership from the ground, and money for consultants.
And we don't have that.
And we don't
That's what you're
have
telling me.
that. So we know what works in other cities. We don't need any more plans. What we need to do is implement the plan. We don't need any more studies. I'm sorry, we need the plan. So Metro Council is working on a resolution toward that end. But it's the twofold approach, the long-term housing, affordable housing, but the short-term land. This is a land struggle.
Yeah, big time, because everybody's trying to stake their claim right now
Yeah.
on our land downtown.
Absolutely.
Big time. Yeah.
And it's pushing our people out.
What I hear you telling me, these all things take time, and we're talking lots of time.
Absolutely.
And the folks at Fort Negley and the folks at other camps, they're running out of time. I mean, and the folks at Fort Negley have just run out of time. So I want to talk about what has happened from September, when everything was supposed to happen, to last Friday, and what the city's approach has been from your perspective, and if there really has been the offer of let's get you someplace safe. So when we come back, we're going to talk more about that. You, of course, are welcome to call, ask a question, make a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Stay with us.